live on Facebook. So we are all together for our Havdalah with a bonus. And we're going to begin with Rabbi Rachel Esserman sharing a story.
Thank you. I have a Chelm story today. Although in this Chelm story, it's sort of interesting that we actually have a typical Chelm person with their logic and a Chelm person who I actually think is pretty darn wise. So Zelig decided it was time to leave Chelm on the day that his wife, Fagel, served him a bone for dinner. He opened his mouth to protest just as she realized her mistake. "Oops, sorry," she said, flashing her most charming gap-toothed grin at him. She bent down and wrestled the steak away from the dog, who had already taken a few bites. She brushed off the steak and placed it before Zelig, tossing the bone down to the very disappointed dog. "Sorry, sweetie," Fagel said lovingly. "Who are you talking to, me or the dog?" Zelig grumbled. "Oh, you, of course, my Zelig." When Fagel saw him looking like that, her heart just melted. In the dim lamplight, she could make out the single thick eyebrow that stretched across his forehead. The eyebrow was what had made her fall in love with him so many years ago. It made him look so distinguished. Why, he looked like the wisest man in Chelm. But Zelig was not in a loving mood. "I bet in Warsaw they don't serve a dog a man's dinner," he muttered. "Warsaw? What are you talking about?" his wife asked. "I've been hearing a lot about Warsaw," Zelig said, nodding dreamily. "Oh, in Warsaw, the streets are paved with gold. In Warsaw, everyone is rich. Why, in Warsaw, they feed dog steak and he looked at his plate in confusion, but finished gamely, they feed their husbands even nicer steaks." He paused dramatically and then said, "And so, Fagel, I'm going to Warsaw tomorrow." "And what about me?" Fagel said. "Are you going to leave me here in Chelm?" "Oh, no," Zelig said, his face softening. "I'll be back before you know it. But sometimes a man's heart just yearns for adventure." Well, when a man from Chelm sets his mind to something, there's no point in trying to change it. Fagel knew there was no dissuading him. But she also knew that he couldn't find his way out of the shoebox without her help. So the next morning, Zelig packed his bag, kissed her, and left the house. She followed him. He walked through Chelm and into the forest. He walked and walked and walked and walked all morning, never realizing he was going around in circles. Fagel hid herself a few paces behind him, knew better than to offer help. After all, sometimes a man's heart yearns for adventure. But finally, all the adventure made Zelig hungry. So he sat down and had his lunch. And all that lunch made him sleepy. So he lay down to have a nap. Now, Zelig was no fool. Before shutting his eyes, he looked down the road. How will I remember which is the way to Warsaw? If I fall asleep, I might wake up and head back the wrong way by accident. Fagel whispered loudly, "Take off your shoes and point them in the direction of Warsaw. That way, when you wake up, you'll know just where to go." Zelig snapped his fingers. I know, he said. "I'll take off my shoes and point them in the direction of Warsaw. That way, when I wake up, I'll know just where to go." Fagel sighed. What a wonderful thing it is to be married to the wisest man in Chelm, she thought, as she watched him arrange his shoes, lay down, and start snoring. Now there was nothing more for her to do than to sneak out quietly and turn his shoes around so they were pointing back to Chelm. Then she hurried home, cooked a nice dinner, put on her best dress, and leaned out the window, watching for Zelig's return. Sure enough, a few hours later, she saw her husband wandering into town looking disappointed. "So this is Warsaw?" she heard him grumbling. Why, it looks just like home. It looks just like home. The streets aren't paved with gold at all. I should have known better than to listen to such nonsense. How could any place be better than my own home? He looked up and down the street. Beryl the butcher passed by and called, "Hello there, Zelig." Zelig stood stock still, his mouth open. "That man," he murmured, "he looks just like Beryl from Helm. And he called me Zelig. There must be another Zelig who lives in Warsaw and looks just like me." "Zelig!" yelled the rabbi who was passing on the other side of the street. "Zelig, what on earth are you talking about?" Hegel heard Zelig draw his breath in deeply. "That rabbi," he murmured. "Not only does he look exactly like the rabbi from Helm, but he talks like the rabbi from Helm. Zelig, what are you talking about?" "Exactly like he always says to me. And he thinks I'm the other Zelig too." Hegel realized her moment had come. She stuck her head out the window and called, "Zelig, dinner's ready." "Oh no," Zelig moaned, bouncing up and down in a panic. "What am I going to do? She also thinks I'm the Warsaw Zelig, the other me. I'll have to pretend to be him." Hegel opened the door and Zelig walked in and looked around nervously. Hegel followed his eyes. It was a house that looked just like his own, a dog that looked just like his own, a dinner that looked just like his own, a wife who looked just like his own. Well, when a man from Helm sets his mind to something, there's no way to change it. So Hegel did not try to change his mind. She motioned him to sit at the table, which he did awkwardly, watching this Warsaw woman who was claiming to be his wife. She smiled, kissed him, and put his dinner down, a nice juicy steak on the table, and tossed a bone to the dog. While he ate, she smoothed down her beautiful dress and gazed at Zelig lovingly. And so Zelig decided he rather liked Warsaw after all. What is not to say he'd forgotten about his life in Helm. After dinner, Hegel heard him thinking, out loud of course, "But here I am in Warsaw, being the Warsaw Zelig, which probably means that back in Helm, the Warsaw Zelig is being the Helm me. That's all very well, but what if the other me decides to come back?" Hegel considered for a minute. Then she whispered loudly, "What's the worst that could happen? If the other me returns, he will clear up the mystery of why you two are so alike. And," she added, grinning, "just think how we will thank you for taking such good care of the Warsaw Hegel." She watched Zelig's single eyebrows crease with concentration, and he's worked his way through her advice. Finally, his face brightened. "Good thinking," he said to himself, and threw the bone on his plate to the familiar dog waiting patiently at his side. So that is typical Helm. His wife was pretty smart there. I like that one. But she also knew not to try to change his mind. One of the other funny parts is that I actually think out loud a lot. And sometimes I've said to people that I work with, I don't even need you to say anything to me. I just need to talk to somebody to figure out what it is that I'm going to do. I hope I'm not as bad as he is.
And it all started because they had a bone to pick about, he had a bone to pick about what happened for dinner, right? So I have shared the blessings for Havdalah in the chat. so that we can all follow the blessings. And hopefully those of you who are lighting and have the spices and have some fruit of the vine with you, have it all together as well. Maya's almost paying attention. I don't like to rush through Havdalah. I like to just take a few moments with the candle, with each of the parts of it, just to take it in a little bit more before we move on to the next part. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim. Borei minei v'samim. I was just thinking about this spice box. It was given to me by it was UAHC, but now it's URJ Regional Director Dick Sternberger, who was the Regional Director of the Mid-Atlantic region, which included Virginia Beach. And so when I was ordained and it came to ordination, he gave me this spice box, saying it would be a good one to use with a congregation in terms of it being, this kind of a size and all that. So just thinking of him and the things that he taught me early on, actually in my student rabbinate, and then he installed me in my first congregation. To the warmth of the flame, which we need in this, all of a sudden with the cold weather, we're just adjusting to. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei me'orei ha'esh borei me'orei ha'esh. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshech ben yom hashvi'i לששת ימי המעשה. ברוך אתה אדוני המבדיל בין קודש לחול. As we acknowledge the distinctions between the sacred and the profane, between light and darkness, seventh day and the 6 days of creation, we take one more moment again to savor the sweetness, the warmth of Shabbat. And when you're ready, we put our candles out in our Fruit of the vine. Eliyahu Hanavi. Wait a second. I didn't send it to you yet. Just a second. It's here. Now you've got the words for Eliyahu Hanavi as well. Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hatishbi. Eliyahu. Eliyahu. Eliyahu Hagiladi. B'meira v'yameinu. Yavo Eloheinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi. I invite you to unmute, to join with me in singing Shavua Tov. Shavua Tov, 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 Shavua Tov. A good week, a week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. Shabbat Tov. We say goodbye to those of you on Facebook so that we will see you either next Friday night for Shabbat services or next Saturday for Havdalah.